Yeah, very good afternoon to one and all. And today concept is about syntax analysis, where it is an unit 2 in our syllabus. As per our syllabus, syntax analysis is an unit number 2. And here in this syllabus, what I am going to deliver is about the concepts that are involved in implementing an syntax analysis. And before going to learn about what the role of the parser is, initially I need to describe or I need to introduce what the syntax analysis is, right? And here what the syntax analysis is, the syntax analysis is the second phase in the compilation. We all know that why at the concept of various phases of compilation, there we implement the syntax analysis. There we saw the internal functionality of the syntax analysis, how the output is generated, in which representation the output is going to be generated. There itself we already learned. And here this syntax analysis is the second phase in compilation. So the other name of the syntax analysis is an parser. We can call it as an parser, or we can also call it as an syntax analyzer. Basically what the parser will do, this parser checks for the syntax of the language, and this parser takes the tokens from the lexical analyzer and groups them in such a way that some programming structure can be recognized in the form of an abstract syntax tree, right? We all know this is an internal functionality of the syntax analysis. Whatever I am explaining now, these are the things that we already know, because we know the basic functionality of the syntax analysis when it is implementing in various phases of compilation, right? And here what we are learning in this unit is in detail concepts, and what the parsing algorithms that we are implementing, and what type of techniques that we are using here to generate the parsers, and all those concepts that we are learning in detail. And after grouping the tokens, if at all, make a note of this, after grouping the tokens, if at all any syntax cannot be recognized, then syntactic error will be generated, and this will be handled by the error handler, right? This will be handled by the error handler, where this error handler is an subphase of the compilers, and this overall process is called as an syntactic or syntax checking of the language. This overall process, what the process means. And step number 1 is an checking for the syntax of the language. Step number 2 is taking the tokens from the lexical analyzers, and by taking the tokens, what the syntax analyzer will do, and it groups them in such a way, and the structure can be recognized. The structure can be called as an hierarchical structure, and it is named as an abstract syntax tree structure. And here we are also talking about the surface of the error handler. After grouping the tokens, if at all any syntax cannot be recognized, then syntactic error will be generated, and this process can be called as an syntax checking of the language. This is the introduction about what the syntax analysis is, right? Having the role of parser, or it can also be called as an syntax analyzer. See the structure that I shared to you all of you see the slide. What the slide consisting of? The slide consisting of mainly two phases. One is a lexical analyzer, and the other one is a syntax analyzer. And initially we are giving a source program, and here in the representation the symbol table is the structure consisting of the symbol table also, and the rest of the phases means the remaining all subsequent phases that consisting in the process of compilation. And initially we are taking an input program, that is an input in the form of a source program that is given to the lexical analyzers, and lexical analyzers take the input from the source program, and after generating the stream of tokens, after generating the stream of tokens, and these tokens are sent to the syntax analyzer. And always the syntax analyzers ask for the token, and the lexical analyzers sends the token. That means here we're using two types of functions, set function and the get function. And after performing the syntax analyzer, then finally we're generating an abstract syntax tree. And once you all recall the role of lexical analyzer, the structure of role of lexical analyzer, and just compare that structure to this role of parser, then you can clearly understand. There in that structure we're having the lexical analyzer and we are having the parser, and here also we're having the lexical analyzer and the parser. Parser means syntax analyzer. What it means is there is an interconnection between the two phases. There is an interconnection between the two phases. And to know about, to clearly understand what the functionality of the lexical analyzer, there, by knowing about the lexical analyzer, there also we need to know what the syntax analyzer is, how the internal functionality of the syntax analyzer is implemented. And here we are learning about a syntax analyzer. So to learn the syntax analyzer, we need to know about an lexical analyzer. This concept was already I explained in the last classes about an lexical analyzers, right? And in further classes, we are going to learn in detail about the syntax analyzers. And see, each and every phase is connected with the symbol table. Why? Because here we are maintaining and record by using the symbol table. What the record consisting of? Consisting of each identifiers. And before knowing about the in detail functionality of the role of parser, first we need to know what the definition of the parser is. What the definition of the parser is. What is an parser? How we are going to define the parser, right? And what is the definition of the parser? A parser is a process which takes the input. From where it is taking the input? From the lexical analyzers in the form of strings. And produces either a parse tree. What it means is an abstract syntax tree. That means an syntactic structure, or generates the syntactic errors, if any. Generates the syntactic errors, if any. And this is the definition of the parser. As you all know what the definition of the parser is, right? And now I'm briefing out the role of the parser, with this structure. See, in the process of compilation, the parser and the lexical analyzer works together, isn't it? By seeing the structure, clearly understand that, because there is an interaction between a lexical analyzer and the syntax analyzer. And after implementing the lexical analyzer, the output that we are generating from the lexical analyzer should send to the syntax analyzer. To implement a syntax analyzer, where we are taking an input from the lexical analyzer. So these two works together. In the process of compilation, the parser and the lexical analyzers works together. That means when parser requires the strings of tokens, it invokes the lexical analyzer. In turn, the lexical analyzer supplies the tokens to the syntax analyzer, right? This is nothing but an interaction between the two phases, lexical analyzer and the syntax analyzer, where lexical analyzer is the first phase in compilation and syntax analyzer is an second phase in compilation. And here, what the next part of implementation is, the parser collects sufficient number of tokens. The parser collects sufficient number of tokens and builds a parse tree. See here, where I am showing the cursor. This parser collects the sufficient number of tokens from the lexical analyzer and then it builds an parse tree. Thus, by building the parse tree, or parser smartly finds the syntactical errors, if any. That's what I'm saying from the starting of the class. It itself acts as an error handler. What it means is, it is also necessary that the parser should recover from commonly occurring errors, right? then the output that we are generating is an error-free output from the syntax analyzer that we are calling is an error-free parse tree. And so that by this output, this is acting as an input to the remaining subsequent phases. So the remaining task of the process of the input can be continued by using this rest of phases. I think you clearly understand what the task that is going to be performed in this parser. That means the role of the parser is, right? And this is the description about the role of parser. And the most important point in the process of compilation, these two phases, phase 1 and phase 2 works together. Why? Because it generates an output. That output is acting as an input to the syntax analyzer. What it means is, after implementing the lexical analyzer, the output should be sent to the syntax analyzer. That means here we are implementing an pre-processing technique. Here we are implementing an pre-processing technique, right? Are you all clear about the topic, role of parser? And now, what are the basic issues in parsing? See, here we're having three most important issues in parsing. What are those? The first issue is about an specification of the syntax. The second issue is about an representation of an input. And the third one is an parsing algorithms. And the specification of syntax means, again, in the concept of construction tools, to generate the parsers, what specification that we are using. There itself I explained the specification for the parser generators should be in the form of an context-free grammars. Context-free grammars. So what the characteristics that we need to take the context-free grammar as an input, right? And here the most important characteristics are, whatever the grammar that we are choosing, it should be a precise grammar and also it should be an unambiguous grammar. Do you all know what the difference between an ambiguity and unambiguity? Then if you know the definition of ambiguous and unambiguous, then you clearly understand what the unambiguous grammar is. Ambiguous is nothing but generating more than one parse tree for the given context-free grammar for a sentence. And unambiguity means at most one, means only one tree, one parse tree. It may be an leftmost or it may be an rightmost. Only we are generating an one parse tree. Then the type of grammars can be called as an unambiguous grammars. So when we are choosing the grammars, we need to specify that what type of the type of the grammar should be a precise grammar and it should be an unambiguous grammar. And when choosing the context-free grammars, it should cover all the details of the programming language. It should cover all the details of the programming language. And whatever we're specifying, it should be complete. Then such type of grammars can be called as an context-free grammars, right? So in issue number 1, at specification of syntax, here the specification that we are using is an context-free grammar, right? And the representation of the input. Here it is another important issue, that is an representation of an input. What it means is representation of an input after parsing. What it means is, why it is importance is, all the subsequent phases of compiler take the information from the parse tree being generated, right? We all know that. And this is important because the information that is suggested any input programming statement should not be deferred after building the syntax tree for it. Well, means by single line statement, how I'm going to define this is, before parsing and after parsing, the meaning of the programming language should be same, right? The meaning of the programming language should be same. Without changing the meaning, we need to represent an input after parsing. This is another issue here. And what the third issue here is, about an parsing algorithms, where it is most crucial issue. And here, based on which we get the parse trees for the given input. If you implement any type of an algorithm and by taking an input after implementing the algorithm, then only we are getting a tree structures. Means here we need to discuss different approaches in this issue. Different and different approaches means here we're applying some techniques like an top-down approach, bottom-up approach, and those top-down and bottom-up are subdivided into some other approaches like that. So we are implementing all those to construct the parsers, right? These are the three most important issues in parsing. Are you clear? Is it clear to all? Yeah. See, what the definition of context-free grammar? What the first issue in parsing is specification of the syntax. Specification in the form of an context-free grammar. What it means is the input that we are taking in the form of an context-free grammar. And now we are going to learn about the concept of CFGs. CFG is nothing but a context-free grammar. How we are going to define that context-free grammars? Just with an G is equal to T, N, S, P. What it means is we can call it as it is a four tuple machine. Why? Because the grammar consisting of the non-terminals, the grammar consisting of the grammar consisting of the starting symbol, and the grammar consisting of the production rules, right? T, capital T is nothing but an terminals. N is nothing but an non-terminals. We can also call it as an variables. And S is the starting symbol of the given grammar. And P is nothing but an production. And how to write the production? Here we're having a format for writing the productions. What the format is? A tends to alpha. Every production should be in the form of an A tends to alpha. What it means is the A should be an variable. That means it should be an non-terminal. Tends to alpha. Alpha is the combination of both the terminal and the non-terminal, right? Both the combination of terminal and non-terminal, we are using an alpha. That means every production should be in the form of an A tends to alpha. Alpha we can call it as a sentinel form. Alpha is an sentinel form where it is consisting of both the, sometimes we can directly take an terminal, sometimes in the grammar we can write the rules like directly by writing an terminal to the variable, or the combination of both the terminal and the variable. And this is the definition of the context-free grammar. See, what is an derivation? What is an derivation? These two concepts like in context-free grammar and the derivation trees, types of derivation trees, and what is an ambiguous grammar and what is an unambiguous grammar, all these are all we already learned in formal language and automata theory in the last semester. Again, I'm revising those concepts. Why? Because to generate the parse trees, our specification should be in a context-free grammar, and you all should know how to derive the input string from the given grammar and also how to represent the derivation trees. Once all of you see the slide that I shared here. What the slide consisting of? Grammar. And here I'm having a question. Is the string minus open parenthesis ID plus ID is a sentence in this grammar? And now we're implementing, that means we're deriving that input string from the given grammar. Right. Deriving that input string from the given grammar. That means derivation from the E. E is a starting root here, starting root node, root variable here. E is the starting symbol of the given grammar. Derivation from E means generating of string W from given grammar. W in the sense string here, what the W is minus open parenthesis ID plus ID closed parenthesis is an string representing with W, and what the starting symbol of the given grammar E here. Only with one variable the overall rules are defined. Overall productions are defined. With only E we're having 5 rules. See here, E tends to E plus C is an one rule, E tends to E star E is an another rule, E tends to open parenthesis, E closed parenthesis, and E tends to minus C, E tends to ID. These are the rules from the given grammar. That means we're having 5 rules with only one variable E. For constructing the derivation, 2 things are important. Make a note of this. Choice of non-terminal from several others. That means choosing an appropriate rules. Choosing an appropriate rules. And another thing is an choice of rule from production rules for corresponding non-terminals. These are the 2 most important things we need to follow by before deriving. What are those? Again, I'm repeating those. Choice of non-terminal from several others. And another one is a choice of rule from production rules for corresponding non-terminals. And here we're having only one choice because only we're having the variable E. E is a non-terminal here. Only we're having a variable E from the given example. So there is no choice to choose. Only E. And the second one is choice of the rules. So now I want to derive this. I want to derive this input string. And what the rules, appropriate rules that I need to choose? See, initially starts with the start symbol of the given grammar E. And here what the input string is minus. The input string starts with minus. So I'm choosing that whether my grammar consisting of any rule starts with an minus. Yeah, here I'm having. So in the place of this E, I am substituting minus E. Right. And what the next terminal in the input in the input sentence, in that means in an input string, open parenthesis. Again, I am seeing in the grammar whether my grammar consisting of any rules like the rule starts with an open parenthesis. See here, E tends to open parenthesis, E closed parenthesis. In the place of this E, I am substituting the rule 3. I'm substituting rule 3. And here, what the next terminal in the given input string? ID. If directly I use ID, then the output I am generating here, I am deriving here is an just minus open parenthesis ID, closed parenthesis. But it is not an correct input sentence. What the input sentence is ID plus ID. The input sentence consisting of ID plus ID. So what I need to choose? See, rule number 1. Choosing and rule number 1. And placing here, substituting here. In the place of this E, I am substituting this E plus E. And now directly the E gives ID. ID is in terminal. And I'm substituting the ID here and here. Then finally I'm getting an, finally I'm deriving an given input string. Right. This is the way of deriving. Deriving an input string from the given grammar. Now, how the tree structure was represented? See here. For the same grammar, for the same input sentence, I'm showing you the structure, the derivation tree. Right. Is it clear? See, whatever we done at the place of deriving, just here we're representing in a tree structure. Initially E, that E is placed with minus E. And this E, in the place of this E, we use open parenthesis, E closed parenthesis. Again, in the place of this E, we use E plus E. See here. In the place of this E, we substitute the terminal ID. And this one, again, the E directly derives an identifier. So finally, what the input string is minus open parenthesis ID plus ID closed parenthesis. This is the parse tree that we generated or that we derived from the given context-free grammar. See, here we're starting from the root node itself and ending with the terminals. That means here we're doing an top-down derivation. What the top-down derivation means, we start building the parse tree at the topmost level itself. Right. Start building the parse tree at the topmost level itself. That means from root to node. Root to input string. That the way of deriving that we are calling it as a top-down derivation. Now, taking another example in the sense, the same example, I'm changing an input sentence here. See, what the input sentence is? ID plus ID into ID. This we can also call as an input string. We can also call as an input string or an input sentence. The grammar is the same grammar I'm taking here, but I used a different input sentence. Here, I defined another input sentence. See, for the same input sentence, I'm deriving two types of structures. I'm deriving two types of structures. See that. What are those? Can anyone identify? See, what the input string I need to derive? ID plus ID into ID. Here I'm having two representations. The both two representations are correct. Whatever I represented here by taking an starting symbol of the grammar and deriving the parse tree like this, and taking the starting symbol of the grammar and deriving the parse tree like this. And what is the difference between those two structures, those two representations? What the difference that you all observed by seeing the representation? What it means is, one is an leftmost derivation and another one is an rightmost derivation. Means either leftmost non-terminal in an sentinel form, sententional form, then it is called as an leftmost derivation, or rightmost non-terminal in an sentential form, then it is called as an rightmost derivation. And here what the concept is, types of derivation trees. Here we're having two types of derivation trees. Means for the same input string, I'm deriving the leftmost derivation and the rightmost derivation from the given grammar, right? One is an leftmost derivation and the another one is an rightmost derivation. Starting from left, ending to right. Starting from right, ending to left. In such a manner, we're defining both the leftmost derivation tree and the rightmost derivation tree. And see here we're having a question that which derivation is correct. The both derivations are correct derivations. Why? Because one comes under an leftmost and another one comes under an rightmost derivation. See, here in this slide, what I am going to explain is about an ambiguity, ambiguous grammar. What it means is more than producing more than one parse tree for any input sentence is said to be an ambiguous. But to specify the input in an syntax analyzers, in an parsing, the specification of the input should be an context-free grammar, and that context-free grammar should be an unambiguous grammar. That means we are not taking the ambiguous grammars. We are not encouraging the ambiguous grammars, right? Whatever the grammar we are taking for implementing or for doing any type of an parsings, so that grammar should be an unambiguous grammar. And here the concept is about an ambiguity. See, for the given grammar, for the input sentence like an ID plus ID star ID, here we are generating one LMD and one RMD. And for the same input sentence, we can generate more than one LMD and more than one RMD. Then that such types of trees can be called as an ambiguous trees. Such types of trees can be called as an ambiguous trees. And the name of the grammar, we can calling it as an ambiguous grammar. Right? Is it clear to all? Starting from left and ending to right is a leftmost derivation. And starting from right ending to left is an rightmost derivation. Make a note of this. And what the ambiguous grammar is, see here we're having an example. For the input sentence ID plus ID star ID, do you all generate the more than one LMD for the same sentence? Yes, it is possible. And for the same sentence, from the given grammar, it is possible to generate the more than one LMD and more than one RMD. So that these types of grammars can be called as an ambiguous grammars. And this concept we already learned in formal language and automated theory, most important concept. And at the concepts of context-free grammar and the derivation trees, this is also another concept there. It was already delivered to you in the last semester. Just I'm revising all those, because in further what we are going to learn is about an in detail learning about parsing techniques, implementation of an parsing techniques by using different approaches. By using different approaches, we are implementing the parsing techniques. And for that, these are all useful as an fundamentals. For that, before implementing those, these concepts are useful as an fundamentals. Fundamental concepts means briefing out what is context-free grammar, how to represent the productions, and what is a derivation tree, and how we're deriving and how we're representing a derivation trees. And if we are having two types of derivation trees like an LMD and RMD, how we're showing the difference between LMD and RMD, and what is an ambiguous grammar and what is an unambiguous grammar. Right, these are all the basic fundamental things that we need to know before learning in detail about implementation of the parsing techniques using different approaches, using different parsing algorithms, or we can call it as in different parsing approaches. Right, is it clear? And in the next class, in today's class, what I explained you is about the introduction of syntax analysis and what the role of parser is, and the definition of the parser, and I explained the role of parser with a neat structure, and then what the most important issues that we're having in an parsing. And after knowing the three issues, and then I explained about what the context-free grammar, that is, and what the definition of context-free grammar is. And the next concept is about the derivation and the derivation trees, and then finally about an ambiguous grammar. And these are the topics I cover in this class. I delivered to you. I think you all understand these basic fundamental things before learning in detail about an syntax analyzers. In the next class, what I'm going to deliver is about the problems in top-down parsing. Problems in top-down parsing. And here we get a definition of what the ambiguous is. And now here we're having a question what the unambiguity is. Unambiguous is reverse of ambiguous is simple. Or reverse of ambiguous is nothing but an unambiguous. That means only producing more than one parse tree is an ambiguous. Produces only one parse tree, not more than one. Produces one parse tree for any input sentence is an unambiguous. All right, is it clear? And I think do you all get a question like what is a sentential form? Sentential form. Sentential form is nothing but, for example, to represent an production, what the format that we are using here, A tends to alpha. Their alpha is an sentential form. Why? Because whatever the variable that we are using at the time of derivation, each and every variable can be called as an sentential, right? Each and every variable can be called as an sentential form. Means here we are substituting the rules, in that form, in the sense in that sentential form. Make a note of that. In the leftmost derivation, and where we are substituting the rules to derive the input string, starts from left and ends to right. In the rightmost derivation, starting from right and ending to left. That is nothing but an leftmost and rightmost definition. See, here we're having an example. See, all of you see this slide. Which one is an LMD and which one is an RMD? Which one is an LMD and which one is an RMD? We're having two representations in the slide, and which comes under an LMD. That means starting from left and ending to right. Starting from left and ending to right means we're substituting the rules in the variables. We should start the substitute from left and end it to right. And RMD means starting the substitutions of the rules in that particular variable from right, ending to left. I think you can clearly understand now. That can be called as an leftmost and the rightmost derivation. Yeah. The first pink representation is an leftmost derivation and the second one is an rightmost derivation. Right? Do you all clear about today's topic that I delivered to you? In tomorrow class, I'm going to explain about the problems in top-down parsing. That is most important concept where we are learning in detail. From that concept onwards, we're starting the in detail learning about the syntax analyzers.